Okay, so good evening, Team Research Foundation of India, our distinguished session expert, Dr. Kunal Soni, sir, and esteemed participants. A very warm welcome to you all with a special welcome to Dr. Kunal, sir, on the concluding day of the Faculty Development Program and Training Program on a systematic way of research paper writing. As you are already acquainted with Dr. Kunal, sir, from his previous insightful session on hypothesis development and testing, and we are delighted to have him once again with us today. And this time he will be taking a session on compiling references and bibliography. It is truly a privilege to welcome him back for another insightful session. So, without any delay, I request Kunal sir to kindly begin his presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ranu. Just confirm this screen sharing.
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Okay, thank you, Ranu. So, good evening once again, and on the last day of this faculty development program, and the topic that we have to discuss today is about compiling, referencing, and bibliography. So, when I was there in the second session of hypothesis development and testing, right? So we had gone through very detailed what is the before process and after process of hypothesis. And with this particular practice, I think we had tried to touch and we had tried to cover up almost all the parameters of research paper writing is having the contribution in your overall journey of research, right? So we had already gone through it, and we have already tried to cover up all those aspects, who are be the part of directly or indirectly uh, to the completion of the hypothesis and how they are contributing in terms of hypothesis with having their own unique features, right? And out of all these discussion point, we had also tried to touch upon there was a one particular process as a part of a systematic way of writing a research paper. So there was one concept that we had also touched upon is the literature review that we have to do it for the research. And at that point of time also, I had also informed you, and you had also one session, I think the first session of this FTP, problem identification and research gap, right? So it is very, very important that, we should have this systematic way of literature review. The reason and purpose for doing this particular practice is to have, to give the direction, to give the roadmap to your research journey, how you are going to club the things together and how you are making the ways together, so that your research is going to be flawless, and it is going to be in proper direction. So in that case, literature review was playing a pioneer role in this particular journey. And we had also seen that, when we are doing those literature review, we are doing those literature review based on the past researcher. And to catch up those past researcher, we are utilizing various portals, research, engines, search engines, Google Scholar, Shodhganga, ResearchGate, academia.edu, right? So there are so many research, platforms through which we are getting those referencing. So this referencing is basically, the purpose of getting those references is to have the records, in terms of, what exactly this particular person has done on this particular topic. And at the same time, if anybody wants to again refer those paper, so we are helping them, the future researcher, that if at all you want to refer this particular paper, so where this paper exactly is, in terms of the journal, where it has been published on the topic, exactly the topic which has been covered on this particular topic. What I can say is in which volume and issue of the journal that it has been published. And lastly, to be very specific, on which page number this particular topic has been published, right? So even if you want to go into detailed manner, and if you don't want to pick up all these pages, so you will get a direction in short that, if at all I want to refer, with the confirmation, or if I have some doubts, or if I want to make some modification in my research based on this particular research. So references will give you, in short, the address, of the particular resources from where it has been picked up. And if at all you want to make certain things in changes, so you can also go into that directions and you can also refer those things. So that is where the references is going to be help you out. In addition to this particular aspect, yeah, the second point of the discussion of this today's session is the referencing and bibliography will always give you and always help us to make our research to be correct on ethical ground and parameters. And at the same time, when we are talking that we want to make our research to be correct on ethical parameter, we also need to see to it that there is one way that either we should write the content which has been created by us, or if we want to refer and if we want to take a help of the content which has been created by the others as a part of research, so there is no clause that we should not use those particular content, but there is a sub clause that if at all we are using those contents from the others, we should not take the credit from our own side, but we should also give, and we should always give the credit to that particular researcher who has made a tremendous efforts, and now out of those efforts, he or she has been came to the conclusion, right? So this is where, it is bibliography and references is one of the genuine and ethical practices that every researcher is giving to others as and when he is going to write his own research, right? So that is where comparing referencing and bibliography is going to be, although it is a last step of research, but I think we are taking the help of those particular resources in the beginning, right? Because if you refer any sort of research paper thesis, it always put in the last, but the role is always starting from the beginning till the end. Even the role of referencing in bibliography is not going to be end when you complete your literature review, right? Even it is going to be continued for your research methodology, data analysis, right? And at the same time, how the finding and conclusion needs to be drafted. So this is how the referencing and bibliography is going to be helpful. So with this introductory note, I'm starting my presentation for today's session. So we will try to see the meaning of this referencing and bibliography. Then we will see how to start the bibliography and references. If at all we are planning to start, then how to make the starts of this bibliography and references. Third point is we need to identify the reason why we need this bibliography. Almost I have explained you right now. What are the different ways through which the referencing and bibliography is going to be drafted, and at the same time it is going to be executed, right? So different types through which the bibliography is going to be drafted. So that is also we need to try to cover. Then what are the different elements, what are the parameters, like, if you want to draft particular referencing in bibliography. So what are the different types of parameters? Almost I have explained, like, the journal name, where it has been published, like in terms of volume, issue, year of publications, right? So these are the various parameters which has been covered depending upon the different formats of referencing in bibliography that we are going to refer. So we'll also see the formats of the referencing in bibliography. And lastly, we will also try to cover up that, is the bibliography and referencing are same? If yes, then there is no issue. But if they are not same, then what is the thin line of difference between those things? Or what is the major difference between those two terminologies? That also we will try to cover up. So yes, references is basically considered to be the last section of every papers or documents where we list all the sources that has been cited or consulted during the research and writing process. So basically, this particular line is saying that the same aspect that I have already explained you, we are taking the help of references for all sort of things in terms of literature review that we need to write it up, right? And for all the writing, even for methodology, even for analytical tools and techniques, or any sort of things where you feel that, I want to verify that how the things is going to be utilized. So that is where the references will come into picture. Then reference is always going to be cite and now the question is, if I'm saying certain things to be referencing in bibliography, but what are the tools that can become the referencing in bibliography for for all of us? So it could be anything. There is no particular sections that is going to be converted or that is going to be referred as referencing in bibliography, but it could be anything out of where the researcher is getting an idea, where the researcher is getting the correct content, where the researcher is getting the content which is needed for his or her research journey. So that we can always refer, and that we can always incorporate in our research journey, and we can carry out our research process. So that is what it's called, the parameters of referencing and bibliography. And this could be books, journal articles, that is research paper, website, that is the theoretical content, the background of the content, history of the content that you are getting it from this particular aspect. That section usually follows the main body of text and appendices, right? So what is these references? So references is always going to cover up the main body of text. That means whenever we are giving some theoretical foundations to our research work, so that is where references is always going to help us out in a like an immense way. Like if at all we want to go for introduction, we want to go for literature review, so this is a main body of text. So I have already asked you, so if at all you are drafting your research paper, or you are drafting your research thesis, or even you are drafting your yesterday I had one session in a research grant. Even if you are drafting your research grant, so where the reference is going to be help you out, where the role of references will come out. So where role of referencing is always going to come out whenever you have to establish the conceptual framework, the theoretical formulation, the fundamental aspect to prove your research topic to be on correct side. Right. So if somebody is asking me that where the references is going to be useful, so my answer is not limited or restricted up to literature review, but I will extend my boundaries in terms of the references that it is going to be help us out in the theoretical formulation. That is about the introductory part of the chapter, right? Introduction of the particular paper, thesis, or even to research paper or grants, right? References is going to be useful. And we are always drafting our introduction chapters based on the topic that we have tried to cover up. Under that topic, there would be certain variables on which we have to write the introduction, right? So when I was taking hypothesis chapter, I had already explained that what should be the part of introduction. So introduction will always drafted based on the variables that we are trying to cover in the topic, that is title of the research. And based on that, these variables we will always try to establish based on theoretical foundation. And wherever we are getting those contents with the help of the previous researcher or supporters, we are making the references. Then each entries of references list includes essential bibliographic information about the sources, such as, so if I need to call up the references, what exactly the references is going to be. So it is name of authors, title of the publication, right? The year and date in which the publication has been published, publisher name, and all the relevant information, which could be the part of the references in terms of page numbers, right? Or any other things as per the style of references that you are going to use as a part of your research paper. Let's say somebody might use APA style of references, somebody might use MLA, somebody might use Chicago, right? So depending upon the style of references and bibliography that we are going to use, the details for 1 point or 2 points might be very, you know, okay. So what is the benefit of, having the references out of all this process? So references is always going to help you out, in terms of narrow down your focus and to avoid the gap between the topic that you need to cover up. Why? Because references is always going to, bring to the researcher to the more nearest to the fundamental ground of the theory, so that it will bridge the gap between those particular aspects. Secondly, it identifies the research in terms of whether it is ethically correct or not, right? So that is where we have to see to it, and that is where we have to focus to, right? That our research is correct on fundamental grounds or not. Clear? So if we want to prove our research to be correct on fundamental grounds and ethically correct, that whatever things that we are trying to cover, that if at all we are taking the content of other researcher, then we should give the credit in terms of citations through the references in bibliography. And if it is our original content, then it should be differentiate between those things. So ethically means you have used some other researchers content and you are giving the credits to them through the citations, and the citations is always been followed by the references. Original means you have developed your own content in terms of data analysis or something, so that is where the citation is not required. And significant means it should be aligned to the title and the purpose of the research, through which either we have cited someone to take the help of their theories to make our research to be significant. And then after, there is two aspect, we are always referring the research gap. So research gap always says that we should always try to bridge the gap between what previously has been done and what you are going to do. So ethically will always covers the previously we have done, and original means what we are going to do as a part of the research is going to be correct and significant. So that is where we have to focus upon. Then it also helps to find the research in a focused area, right? So if we are writing the content as per the title topic, so it will help us to bridge on to give the direction of the research to the in a focused area where we have to conduct the research. Then references is always help us to prove our research to be correct on fundamental knowledge. The simple answer to this particular line is, when we are giving credits, you might have referred certain Scopus, Web of Science, ABDC journals, where the quality paper has been published. So you must have noticed that even in data analysis part, people are giving the citations to that particular line. So in all the Scopus, ABDC, Web of Science journal, even the data analysis that has been proved by their own work, that doesn't mean that this particular line has been invented by these people, but this thing is already proven by someone, right? And that is why we are giving the credits to that particular authors, right? So that when we are receiving this kind of analysis and we have to interpret those analysis, so already these people have done those analysis, and that is why we are giving the credits to them. Now the question is, then sir, why we are doing the research? if even in analysis part, if somebody has already done it, then what is our role? So I want to answer this particular question, that in social science, and all other fields, we are not making any inventions out of it, but we are making the research. That means we are trying to set the combination of different things, and we want to try the combination of different things, and we want to see the results. And when we and we are we are trying different combination, so we have not invented something out of it, but out of the invented things, right, we are trying to cover up the effects of different combinations on the research part, right? So that is what we have to see those parts, and we have to think about those aspects, so that is how it is going to make a difference, and this is how we can make the difference on this particular point. Yeah, so this is one aspect that we have to see. It helps to find out the quality of works that has been done, and also helps to get the citation process and in avoiding plagiarism, right? So that's what I have said. If you are drafting, somebody work or some other researcher works in your research area without any citations through the referencing in bibliography, so it will directly cover up as a plagiarism. So obviously, if you are planning for publications, obviously the plagiarism should be avoided at the first instance only. So it is our first and prime focused area while drafting a research paper. And to avoid those parts, we should also know that how many parts of research needs to be taken from the others, and how much parts that should be invented by ours. So that is where the thin line of difference needs to be created. And even if you are taking the works of others, as we have already mentioned, to be correct on ethical grounds, so we should always cite those people and we should give the credits to them, because we should understand that today we are doing research and we are giving credits to them. So tomorrow, if our research is correct in all the grounds, and if we want to take the references from the others, so if this system is not going to be established, how the researchers can take credits for their own research? So that is where the citation process does matter, as far as all this particular process that we have to do. So how the research cycle is going to help you out, right? So how research is going to be done as far as the literature review, and that same we are depicting in the referencing in bibliography. So you see this, as a researcher, you are starting your research journey, so there are a lot of literatures that you have to refer. And being a researcher, you start doing reading of those things. You just remember your PhD journey, where everybody must have at least gone through 200 to 250 research papers, at least minimum, as a part of, for a completion part of their PhD journey. So if you read those things, so when you are reading those things, when you read first paper, two paper, three paper, four paper, five paper, and down the line, when you are reaching to 10th paper, 20th paper, there would be a possibility that you will forget the clause, the purpose of the first paper it has been. You might remember certain things, but you might not be in a position to connect what exactly there it was, right? So what we have to do, so then we are trying to, simplify the process that we can see in the second image. So, every university is giving us some format, as far as systematic literature review is concerned, like who is the author, year of publication, title of the paper, methodology which has been used, data analysis and conclusions and findings, right? So this is how we are trying to write those things, and we are making simplify, because we should not remember each and everything, but we are trying to write all those important things which is needed as a part of making our research to be correct, and to give the direction to our research in a particular dimension. Clear? So we'll write something out of all the understanding that we have received. So after doing these practices, let's say we have done it for 20, 50, 70, 100. When we reach to 100, it will be very overdose for all of us. So now it is a position like we should not be depend upon our mind, but we have to depend upon the system where we have tried to incorporate the important aspects of the paper. So after doing this much exercise for a long tenure and rigorously, your situation is like that. You're just doing the papers, you are just reading those papers, but now you are in a position that you are trying to eat so many things at one point of time, but it is not going to hit in your mind, it is not going to capture in your mouth, and it is a waste of time, waste of energy, waste of resources. So majority of the things are going to be waste at this point of time, as you can see in the image, which is called rings, right? And once, if you have any sort of doubt, you can ask in between, right? Because I cannot see your chat box or thumb impression, so you can in between interrupt anytime, and we will discuss if you have any doubts. And when we are doing this particular practices, you will reach to the particular situation that, if you want to see that, let's say I have 5 to 6 variables of my research, and if I reach to the fourth variables of my research with having 23 publications or 25 publications for all the variables, and I want to see that, in the 76th publication, I found that, this particular researcher has taken different combination of research work. So if I want to verify the first combination, right? So should I go and, do it again for all the resources to be open where it was, right? So this repetition task is very tedious, very time consuming, and most importantly, non-advisable and non-doable things, So nowadays in ICT tools, AI tools, and the various softwares in the market for all this aspect, this kind of practices, now we can avoid it with the smart utilization of all the tools. And most importantly, the smart way of doing the research work from every researcher to researcher. The tools are available for everyone. The papers are available for everyone. you know the instruments are available for everyone, but the point over here is not everyone can be able to do the research in a same manner, right? The reason why is it is a decision of the researcher how they want to utilize the various resources which is available to them, and how to incorporate those resources for a smart utilization, right? So that is where the role of researcher is coming, and that is how the researchers can also differentiate their role in terms of putting the research work to be in practice. Clear? So this is how the system and the approach is going to make a difference for all of us. Clear? Okay. So when we are doing references, so how the references are covering different topics, so it helps to provide the relevance to the topic in terms of, when we are doing the existing literature review. So existing literature reviews covers many things, right? So research references is always going to be help us in terms of what we need to cover up, what we have already covered up, and what we don't need to cover up. So all those questions answers can be easily given by the referencing and bibliography that we have done it on a timely basis, on a systematic way, on frequent basis for our research work, right? So it is always going to be help us out in this particular aspect. So we must have to think and we must have to incorporate those things for all of us. Secondly, understand the existing research. So we need to understand that out of the referencing and bibliography, what past researcher has done on this particular research. So if you want to again go for it, again review it, again reopen it, and again we want to refer it, so this kind of referencing and bibliography will always help us out to again reach out those contents. Out of the sea, we are making a pond of resources for our references, and it is very easy to find out any resources from the pond rather than going into the sea of resources, right? So that is what the work of referencing and bibliography. Define contribution. So we have already discussed, to prove your research to be correct and ethical, right? You should always give the citations to every people who have contributed in the existing body of knowledge, that you have taken. as a part of your research work, and that is how, if you are giving them citation, and for some contents which are original, which we have drafted, so even to differentiate in your paper, like what is your contribution in this paper and what was the others contributions from the previous study. So even in this aspect also, the referencing and bibliography plays a pivotal role for the future future readers or researchers to differentiate in this. And even for the journal also, when the journal needs to publish your paper, they are looking for scientific papers. So even to make your research to be correct and scientific, the journals also need to verify the authenticity. So referencing and bibliography also helps the journals to take the decisions whether to publish or not. And if we are not making those things into our research work, it is very rare chances, or it is almost impossible, that we should publish our research paper in good journals to receive good citations. So you must be aware that if you want to publish, if you want to receive more citations in good quality journals, and even if you want to publish your paper into good quality journals like Scopus, ABDC, Web of Science, so these kind of journals are also expecting that whosoever researcher is submitting their papers into their journals, they should also provide the citation and citations through the referencing and bibliography from the same kind of journals where the paper has been published. So if you are able to crack those publications, it would be easy for us to get more citations for our research work, right? And the basic objective is to give the credit to the previous authors for the contribution that has been provided by them on the area of topics on which we are working, right? So that is where we all are making these efforts to provide the credits and to give the justice to the people who have done this particular work in this particular direction. So here we will discuss what is the logical structure of the paper. So research always starts with introduction, literature review, methodology, results, discussion, and conclusion. So referencing and bibliography is always going to come after conclusion, right? When we are drafting a paper, obviously when we are focusing on the quality of the work and quality journal, so the parameters in terms of clear and concise and scholarly manner content should always be there. Yeah, to park your paper at the right journals. So obviously this kind of things needs to be followed. Then we need to make a citation sources very properly in terms of the format, like APA, MLA, Chicago, Harvard. Stay updated. So stay updated in a sense whenever new research, new things which is coming out into the market. So we should always be aware, and as and when it is coming out, we always needs to incorporate, and we always needs to keep updated on these platforms. So stay updated means we should aware about the current trends, current inventions, current research which is happening in our area. And whenever it is required that you need to make certain improvements as a part of your overall drafting of your research work, so you should always see to it. And whenever if you feel that there is a scope of improvement, you should always make this kind of improvement. But this kind of ideas can be reflected through the help of the various source of literature review, which you can always be accessible through the referencing and bibliography. Engage with peers. So if you're going to some conferences, some workshops, seminars, so I always speaks in my all the session that research is a networking activity. It should not be done alone, right? Even if you can have the collaborations with the multiple dimensions of the people, interdisciplinary research should always be advisable, and it has the greater validity and acceptability in the market, because every genre that we are covering with the experts in those particular genre. So research should always have the marketability in a sense that it should have the validations and importance to the society in terms of, either to improve their lifestyle or either to, improve their knowledge. And if you want to make your research on this particular ground, you should always have to work collaboratively, even in the same areas like social science, if you want to do it. So we should connect with the multiple researcher authors, you know, because every time we don't know everything, but research is an ongoing journey. Just like in our life, we have to keep updated as a part of faculties and researchers. So obviously you will always came to know something new from the every people. So keep discussing, keep learning, keep collaborating, so that overall sometimes things which you have to learn, you will learn from the discussion. So that is how the journey will be easy for all of us with this collaborative efforts. Right. So, and whenever, even if you're referring some papers through online, and those journals are not free of cost available, usually in Scopus ABDC journals, not all journals are open, open access. So even if you can mail to the particular researchers to give the particular papers, so obviously they will also help you out in some manners, But again, you have to take those initiatives, and to take those initiatives, it is our concrete efforts that first we need to find out that who is doing the research in our area, right? So obviously the self-initiation, proactive nature is always going to work out, and this is going to be possible, right? So all the communication that has been done from the researcher of the current situation and from the researcher who have already done this particular work is through the email for providing the references and bibliography. Right. So that is where referencing and bibliography again is helping us like anything. Right. So here we need to understand the references should be provided from the high impact factor journals. Right. This is one of the journal, when I act as a reviewer. So this is Q1 journal. Right. So whenever the papers will come out, even the reviewers are doing the same practices. If somebody is citing that, this particular line has been given by this particular person, even the reviewer, wants to make a critical review, and they want to finally come to the conclusion, and that needs to be conveyed to the editors of the journal, that whether we need to publish this paper or not, you know. So to critically review those paper, the reviewers are also using the referencing and bibliography very critically, So even if you want to publish your paper, if you have tried to publish a paper in Scopus ABDC journal, so they have a separate sections for the referencing and bibliography need to be submitted. Because as in when you are submitting your paper, you need to submit your referencing and bibliography, separately. And if your referencing and bibliography are not from the quality journals, no, believe me, your paper will be rejected in the first instance itself, irrespective of the efforts that you have made it. Secondly, you also have to see the layout of the paper that every quality journals are focusing upon. And for that, you always have to go into first the author's guidelines in terms of, the way to draft your research paper. And at the same time, you should also download one more paper which has been drafted by the previous researcher. So first instance is like, you have a layout, and at the same time, how this layout has been executed by the previous researchers to publish their paper. So according to that, we also need to draft the paper, and that is where we should also justify the role of citations through referencing and bibliography. So referencing and bibliography, although it is kept as the last in the paper, but when we are submitting our papers for the publication in this kind of journals, they played the first role, whether this paper is impactful or not, through the verification of referencing and bibliography in the first instance itself. Very, very important to note this kind of things. So important sites for the references, you can always go for Schemago website to get the citations. Web of Science portal, Google Scholar, you can always find out the good papers. Taylor and Francis, papers, again it is a part of Scopus only, but yeah, you can always refer their portals to get the references. Apart from that, if you are looking for some peer reviewed journal, so you can refer ResearchGate, you can refer academia.edu, so these are the important portals that you can always refer as a part of receiving the good quality references for our own part. Then why we need referencing in bibliography? So I think we have discussed in very deep and detailed manner, but still to confirm those things. So to acknowledge others' works, obviously, if somebody has done the work and given some statement, so we should always give them the citations. So it is one kind of respect that we are by acknowledging others that we are doing for their own work, and that is what the system of society. So to allow others, that is readers, to find out source easily. So even readers means the future researchers, like just like we, if we are drafting our paper. So if we want to refer those papers even today and even after tomorrow, right? So we would be able to read those papers very easily, right? As and when the citation sources, we have already saved it in our different portals. To get recognition and authentication of works, obviously, if we are acknowledging others' work, so definitely, indirectly or indirectly, we are recognizing their works, and at the same time, we are also authenticating that if I'm particular line, if I'm drafting in my research paper, so who has authenticated those lines? So you can always go and find out this particular line in this particular paper. So that is where the citations are going to work out to prove the authenticity. Just like we had discussed one point, to prove your research to be ethically correct. So obviously authenticity is going to be proved out through the referencing and bibliography. To make the work informative in terms of quality, that means something unique, as I already mentioned, we are not inventing something, but we are just making research on different equations, formations, and to make out with some new combinations in the market. So that is how we should prove our research to be qualitative. To trace the intellectual development of the ideas that you present. So if you want to make your research to be intellectually correct, right, then you also have to work out on the references and bibliography. So that is how we have to see this, why we need to do this referencing and bibliography. So now here we are discussing about the different parameters of why we are doing this particular practices. So firstly, it is annotated bibliography, right? What is annotated bibliography? So annotated bibliography means we need to provide the summary of the things, and this summary we need to draft in terms of few parameters of the summary, like credibility, authenticity, and usefulness of the research. So that is where annotated bibliography are always going to provide the you know some short summary instead of going into detailed reading of the entire paper, right? So we should decide few criteria that are very going to be important for our research. And if at all, if somebody wants to refer from this particular paper also, that why we have cited this particular person, so even after the bibliography, we need to provide those points in a 3 to 4 lines to provide a better understanding for the citation aspect for the future research. Selective bibliography. So we should not write everything for all the referencing in, but we should write this particular summary for some relevant and significant sources of the research that we have utilized. So it is the choice of the researcher. Nobody can decide which is important, which is not important, but it is completely the call of researcher, which you feel that most significance of your research work. That means almost, if I'm not mistaken, then which research papers are considered to be the most significant base through which you have drafted your paper in a same manner, or mostly you have referred from this particular paper. So this is considered to be the significant paper for your research work, right? So this particular bibliography aims to provide the available sources on a topic, like and prioritize that which kind of different keywords works and which are essential for understanding the subject matters. So if you refer those subjective bibliographies, almost you will get in all the ideas that you need to incorporate in your research in a future base, right? And that proves more significant impact in the field of research. So it saves your time, energy, and efforts to incorporate those particular things in your research work. Subjective, so here we have to subject-wise bifurcation of the bibliography. So again, the subjective bibliography will be decided by the researcher at the stage of the, what I can say is, the introductory part, that we are differentiating our research in terms of different variables that we need to cover up. And to cover up those different variables, we will differentiate the particular theories of the particular variable, and for that, which particular theory which has been given by which particular authors. So this is how we will bifurcate and divide in terms of the subjects that we need to cover up. So this kind of activities can be done through the various sort of books that we need to cover up: journal articles, reports, websites, and other materials which are most relevant to our subject matters. And this kind of bibliographies will help us to locate the resources, particularly specifically on this particular aspect, just like if I'm doing research on behavioral finance, right? So behavioral finance has many things like anchoring bias, herding bias, cognitive bias, disposition bias, right? So instead of putting all things together, we should differentiate between the referencing and bibliography that we are providing with the subject and variable wise. Like if I want to cover a particular authors in terms of disposition bias, so disposition bias authors needs to be segregated. Hoarding bias authors needs to be segregated. So this is how the subjective bibliography needs to be provided. Okay. Then exhaustive bibliography is again attempts to list all available sources on particular topic or subject area. So this provides a comprehensive overview. Just like in subjective, we have differentiate between variable wise. So here there is no difference. All the subject wise, all the references keeps together. There is no bifurcation. So I think exhaustive bibliography is not going to much useful in this, but still for your knowledge, we are discussing. Chronological. So obviously chronological means it could be chronological in any sense. Like if you want to bifurcate into A to Z in terms of the name of authors, in terms of the title of the paper. So chronological can be decided by the researcher. There should not be any specific criteria. Even you can do it chronological in terms of year of publications, right? So depending upon the criteria that you decide for chronology, the every short summary of the topics will be given on this particular aspect, right? Descriptive. So in this bibliography, we need to provide the detailed information about the physical characteristics of the books and other printed materials, where it is, who is the publisher, where it has been published, what is the objective of getting these publications in terms of edition, printing history, bindings, and other bibliographical details, right? So this is what it's called descriptive bibliography. So in a nutshell, we have seen the different parameters of bibliography. So the elements of the bibliography that we need to cover up, just like if we are having certain referencing in bibliography in any sort of paper, so what should be the structure of that bibliography that you will find it out in all the bibliography. So you'll always find the name of authors in terms of last name and first name, then year of publication in which it has published a paper, title of the research work, we need to work out on the title of the research. Then we also need to see the name of journals where it has been published, right? Editions, in which edition this particular research work is going to be published. So volume and issue number. Periodicity, as I already mentioned, and the series, if let's say there are many Scopus books nowadays has been published in terms of chapters. So the series needs to be, identified: series 1, series 2, series 3, and so on. So let's see these different formats. So these are the different formats of referencing in bibliography. Yeah. So every format has different, parameters, right? So that is what we have to see over here. As you can see this, let's talk about. So first of all, there are different formats. So we have the formats of MLA, APA, Chicago, IEEE, CSE. We have Vancouver, right, and Harvard as well. And there are a lot many other formats are there which I have not covered, but I have covered majorly just like subjective, right? So which are most commonly used in the market. So in India we usually use APA, right? USA people are using Chicago, right? UK and other European countries are using Harvard, Vancouver, So depending upon the journals and geographical area in which you are staying, the formats are going to change. But again, the parameters are almost same for all of us. Just the location of those parameters are going to change. For a comparison, I just wanted to show you the one comparison between MLA and APA style. So the same content, this is one of my paper for which I have taken up the various citations, from the Google Scholar. So you just see this particular aspect. So if you see this, you can see this, the name of the authors in terms of last name and first name, Sony Krunal, right, and Maulik Desai. So the second author's name has been written like, first name and last name. Then the same comparison if we come for the APA style. So you can see this, they are using last name and first name, but the first name is only using the first letter of the first name. They are not mentioning the full name of the author. And again, in the second author, same pattern has been followed by the APA style. The first last name of the second author, that is Desai, and don't write first name, full name, but they are just mentioning the first letter of the name, that is M Maulik. And second differentiation is, you can see this in APA, you have year of publication immediately after the name of authors get completed. And in this particular MLA, you will see the year of publication after the volume and issue number, right? So this is 10 is volume and 1 is issue, right? So in volume and issue, again, you can see the difference. So in MLA, it has been written as a dot, but in APA, it has been written in bracket. So after volume, the issue number will be written after putting dot, but in issue, APA, it is not used dot, but the issue number immediately will be kept in brackets, and immediately after that, in APA is a page number 67 to 79, right? But in MLA, it is year of publication, and then it has been page of, page number where this content has been published. Clear? So this is how the things are going to be proceed as far as MLA, APA, Chicago, Harvard, Vancouver, things are there. So everywhere things are there, but the way of drafting, the way of taking the parameters are going to be differentiate. So let's see all these formats. You can see this. This is MLA style, as I already mentioned. The difference point, the full name with the surname and last name and full name. Then this is the paper title, as you can see this title of the paper, right? Then this is Copernican Journal of Finance and Accounting. It is the name of journal where it has been published. Then 10 is volume and 1 is issue number. 2021 is year of publication, and 67 and 79 is page number. Now we are shifting to APA style, and now you will see the changes in the parameters. Sequence, you can see this, how the sequence has been changed. So now you can see this, full name is not appearing, but last name and first name, first letter. Year of publication is immediately after that. Then the title of the paper and the name of the journal is there. But again, volume and issue is also there, but the way of writing volume and issue has changed. Previously it was dot, here it is brackets and then page number. Chicago, you can again see this in APA. The year of publication was immediately after the name of author. And again, the name of author was not written in a full name. But again, you can see this. Chicago is following the same format that how MLA was following. But again, in MLA, after a name of author, you are putting dot, but here you are putting comma, right? And in second author, you are putting nothing, right? And again, the first author name should be starting with the last name and first name, but second author name is starting from first name and last name. Then the title, publications, right, paper title, then name of the journals we are putting over here. Then this is a volume number 10 and issue number, you can see this. In MLA, it was dot only, In APA it was in bracket, but in Chicago it is comma, and you write NO dot, that is number, which number of issue that you are representing. So this is how the format has been changed. And again, the year of publication in APA was immediately after the author's name, right? And here it has been posted after volume and issue, right? And then after, you have to write the page number. So in both the format, like Chicago and MLA, sorry, AP and MLA style, it was a bracket, but here it is semicolon. Clear? So this is how the page number in Chicago has been mentioned. So these are the overview of few important references style that you need to follow. But yeah, we have to be very cautious in terms of using any formats of references that we are going to utilize. But now we are reaching to the last point of this particular topic. What is the basic difference between the referencing and bibliography, even if at all we are using it? So the term referencing and bibliography usually sounds like, it is very common, and it is almost, people are having the perception that they both are same, not much difference is there. So you are correct somehow. So they are almost same and not much difference are there. That term itself says that there is a thin line of difference. And that is where we need to differentiate them. And that is why we should not at least consider that both are same. Right. So how they are differentiating themselves with each other. So it is the items, that is references, that you have read it. So if some magazines, some papers that came into your notice on the particular topic where we are working. So those topics we have read it, and we also have to, after reading it, and we found that this is most significant for our research work. So you have also referred those topics, and you have also given the citations to that particular topic of the researcher in your work. That means you have read those topic, and due to after reading you feel that it can contribute significantly to my research work, and that's why it is contributing to your research work. You have cited those resources. So whatever things which you have cited in your research paper, so those reference, those things are considered to be the references. But what is bibliography? So the first parameter is common. So whatever source which you came into the notice, you have read it. But then after you realize that it is not significantly contributing to my research work, right? So those resources you have not cited, but although you have gone through it, and out of that you have at least get some or other ideas, whether I have to draft my research work in this way or I should not draft my research work in this way. So contribution is also there for those resources who have also given an idea that you should not, draft your paper in a manner which we have drafted. So they have also given you some idea. There is two aspects in life. One says that what to do, and other says that what not to do, right? So references is representing that what to do in your research work, and that you have already incorporated in your research work. So that is what it's called references in terms of citations. But bibliography is communicating what not to do in your research work, and that is where you are not following the references. Idea, right? That what not to do, right? So this is what it's called, the bibliography, right? So bibliography is considered to be a tutor or an overview of which the authors have influenced your ideas and arguments, even if you do not specifically refer to them. Refer to them means you have not cited them. Already you have read it. You've got an idea, but you got an idea that I should not do like this, that this particular researcher has done it. So even those people have also helped you out, in terms of what your research should not have it. So that is where these people are also contributing in this manner, for your research journey, that what you should avoid it. So bibliography is considered to be also the resources for the researcher, but those resources has given an idea that what researcher should avoid it, right? And reference is giving an idea to the future researcher that what researcher should do it and what researcher has pursued it in this particular paper out of their references. So this is what the basic difference between referencing and bibliography. Various sources from where we are getting those referencing and bibliography. So it could be either any sort of books in terms of theoretical or in terms of research point of view, journals where the research paper has been published. You can also refer some newspapers and magazines, conference papers and proceedings, institutional and government publications, few electrical resources like website, CD-ROMs, and database, few thesis reports and unpublished works also. Parameters for identifying quality references. So obviously we should, as I already mentioned, that we should always refer good quality journals which has been published in good indexing journals like Scopus, ABDC, Web of Science, and for that you always have to refer the quality of journals through various indexing parameters like H index of the journal. Even if you are referring some university papers, so let's say if you are referring some IIM Ahmedabad papers, so obviously the name itself is enough to justify the quality of the work, right? So university ranking, affiliation, name of the institute, quality assurance certificate which has been issued to any institute, right? So all those parameters are going to help us out to find the quality references, and the same we can portray in our research work, but at the same time we should have to evaluate those things in a very properly manner. So reasons for reference and citations. So again, to publish your work, to prove your work to be original, rigorous, and significant, to execute the funnel approach in terms of EIC model, right? So if you want to give the direction to your research work in a very narrow down approach, so this referencing will help us out, what to do and what not to do. To justify your paper on fundamental fronts in terms of what you have taken from others and what you have done by yourself. So that is where your research paper is fundamentally correct, and to justify your contribution in the research also, the referencing and bibliography is going to help us out. So make sure that the content should be advanced and updated, so that we always come to know from referring the various papers which is in the current publications, and that we can always identify from the good journals of your research, right? Also, it helps us out to have, to identify the quality of journals in terms of impact factors, and to receive immediate indexing for our research work. And obviously, at the last, to provide and to differentiate our research to be qualitative or quantitative front. So research always believes in quality. The good publication always asks for quality. It doesn't matter that your paper is for 5 pages or 15 pages. Even 5 pages can make significant impact if it is followed by the qualities and to the point discussion on the particular paper. But that can be verified and evaluated based on the referencing and citations. So that's it from my side. Thank you so much, all of you. If you have any questions, I'm ready to take those queries. Yeah, any queries, any questions, any suggestions, please. Yeah, anything you want to ask, anything you want to raise the questions, please ask.
Sir, I would like to know if we are taking help of AI, not completely, but suppose just something for reference. So we have to mention how are we going to refer it in this references? Are we supposed to refer, or just we can leave it like that?